Trump orders review of immigrant visas. Former Bangladesh leader Hasina gets 21 years in jail for corruption. Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani. This is World Today and I'm Otto Othman. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has announced that more than 6,000 Malaysians stranded due to floods in southern Thailand have safely returned to the country since rescue operations were launched last Sunday. Now, the Prime Minister said the mission was largely supported by nearly 20 Malaysian volunteer organizations mobilized in cooperation with the Foreign Ministry. This includes 13 volunteer fire and rescue teams, along with the support from the Thai government. Datuk Seri Anwar expressed deep emotions regarding the courage and determination of the country's volunteer teams who are willing to brave floods in order to save the people of Malaysia. Now, the Prime Minister also expressed his gratitude to the Foreign Ministry, the Malaysian Embassy in Thailand, the Malaysian Consulate General in Songkhla, Thai authorities and local rescue teams for their assistance. Datuk Seri Anwar also urged the public to continue praying for the safety of volunteers and all parties still engaged in the mission to bring Malaysians stranded in the neighbouring country home. We proceed with flood updates. Authorities across Indonesia and Thailand work to reach residents trapped in floods that have killed dozens of people across the region in recent days. Now, in Indonesia, the toll from floods and landslides rose to at least 84. As the country was battered by heavy rain for days, with dozens still missing. National Search and Rescue Agency stated that road access to some areas has been cut off by debris, with communications and electricity also not available. Heavy rain in Aceh has also forced the evacuation of thousands of people. The same weather system has caused enormous flooding in southern Thailand, particularly in Hat Yai, near the border with Malaysia. Entire districts were submerged by flooding that pushed desperate residents onto rooftops. Thailand's government said at least 55 people died during severe floods from a week of heavy rain that have devastated 9 southern provinces. The region is experiencing its annual monsoon season, but scientists have shown that climate change produces more intense bouts of rain because of warmer atmosphere holds more moisture. On to the flood situation in Sri Lanka. At least 47 people have been killed and another 21 have gone missing due to some 10 days of massive flooding and landslides. Now, rescue operations continued in hard-hit areas as the island country remains under severe weather conditions. This includes heavy rainfall, rising floodwaters and landslides since 17th November, disrupting life across multiple districts. According to the Disaster Management Center, over 5,000 people in 17 districts have been severely affected by the inclement weather. A low-pressure system remains anchored over the country, generating heavy winds and repeated waves of intense rainfall. Authorities have issued a red alert landslide warning for 8 high-risk districts, signaling a severe risk in steep slopes, hillside communities, and vulnerable zones. Donald Trump's administration is reviewing the permanent residency status of immigrants from 19 countries, including Afghanistan, in its latest response to shooting of 2 National Guard soldiers near the White House. Now, this comes after the FBI said it has opened an international terrorism investigation as the new information surfaced about the suspected gunman, an Afghan national who previously served alongside U.S. forces in Afghanistan. Officials said inquiries are ongoing to determine the motive and potential links to extreme networks. A brief video statement, Trump pointed immigrants as an existential threat to national security. His administration ordered an immediate halt to the processing of immigration applications from Afghanistan.
To our country, if they can't love our country, we don't want them.
Trump also announced that Sarah Backstrom, one of the 2 National Guard troops shot near the White House, had died, while the other soldiers is fighting for his life. A court in Bangladesh has sentenced ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to 21 years in prison for corruption, a week after she was given the death penalty for crimes against humanity. Hasina is currently residing in India and has defied court orders that she return to Bangladesh. Now, she was sentenced in absentia on 17 November to be hanged for crimes against humanity after ordering a deadly crackdown against a student-led uprising last year. But 3 other cases had been brought against the ex-leader by the Anti-Corruption Commission over land grabs of lucrative plots in a suburb of the capital Dhaka. Judge Abdullah Al-Manum ruled that Hasina's conduct demonstrate a persistent corruption mindset rooted in entitlement, unchecked power, and greedy eye for public property. Now, he said, treating public land as a private asset, she directed her greed towards state resources and manipulated official procedures to benefit herself and her relatives. Hasina's son, Sajib Wazed, and daughter, Saima Wazed, were sentenced to 5 years each. Over in Peru, the Supreme Court has sentenced ex-President Pedro Castillo to more than 11 years in jail for trying to dissolve Congress and ruled by decree to avoid impeachment. Castillo, who won power in 2021 on a promise to uplift Peru's poor, took the shocking decision to dissolve Congress to try to avoid impeachment for alleged corruption in 2022. His stunt failed spectacularly, with members of his own government resisting what prosecutors called an attempted coup. Delivering its judgment, the Supreme Court convicted him of conspiracy to commit rebellion against the powers of the state and the constitutional order. The court acquitted him on separate charges of abuse of power and disturbing a public order. Now, he was sentenced to 11 years, 5 months, and 15 days in prison. The death toll from Hong Kong's worst fire in decades has risen to at least 94, with the blaze almost entirely extinguished and rescuers scouring torch high-rise buildings for scores of people still listed as missing. Early today, authorities said the fire had been contained to 4 of the sprawling apartment complex's almost 2,000 units, while over 24 hours after the blaze broke out in the 8-building complex. Now, firefighters continue to douse the building with water to cool the structure and prevent embers from reigniting. At least 76 people were injured in the blaze, including 11 firefighters. Authorities have begun investigating the cause of the blaze, including the presence of bamboo scaffolding and plastic mesh wrapped around the structures as part of a major renovation. Hong Kong's anti-corruption body said it had launched a probe into the renovation work at the complex hours after police said they had arrested 3 men on suspicion of negligently leaving foam packaging at the fire site. Hong Kong authorities will immediately inspect all housing estates undergoing major work following the disaster. The UN's International Labour Organization has agreed to structural reforms in response to an unprecedented financial crisis triggered by international aid cuts. Now, the organization, made up of government, employer, and employee representatives, relies on the U.S. for the bulk of its funding, 22% of the budget. But the country has not paid its fees for the past 2 years and owes the organization $173 billion. Its administrative council agreed to thoughtful structural reforms of the organization to secure its medium to long-term efficiency and impact. Now, Director General Gilbert Hugbo now has been the green light to propose reforms which will have to be approved by the Council next March. Urgent economic measures such as freezing contracts are permitted in the meantime. Hugbo predicted budget reductions of between 15% and 20% next year and 2027 if member contributions do not materialize. The organization is considering dismissing employees or relocating them to places less expensive than Switzerland. Paris's Louvre Museum has decided to raise ticket prices for most non-EU visitors, meaning US, British, and Chinese tourists, among others, will have to pay $37 to get in. Now, the museum said the 45% price hike aims to boost annual revenues by up to $23 million to fund structural improvements at the world's most visited art museum. From 14th January, visitors from outside the EU, Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norway will have to pay €32, an extra €10. The measure was approved at a museum board meeting. A 2024 report published by the Louvre showed it received 8.7 million visitors that year, of which 69% were foreigners. Americans were the most numerous, with Chinese visitors in third place. Still ahead, Israeli forces kill 2 Palestinians during surrender.
Menggosok baju sekaligus boleh menjimatkan elektrik.
Israeli troops shot 2 Palestinian men who appeared to be surrendering and unarmed during a raid in the occupied West Bank. In the footage, the men are seen exiting a building surrounded by armed Israeli forces in the northern West Bank city of Jenin, lifting their shirts and laying on the ground in an apparent surrender. The forces then appeared to direct the men back inside the building before opening fire at close range. The Palestinian Health Ministry said the 2 men were killed in the shooting, identifying them as Montasir Abdullah and Yusuf Assasa. The Israeli military and Israel police issued a joint statement announcing that they had opened an investigation following the incident. The statement, however, did not explain the circumstances that led to the forces opening fire. It also did not clarify whether the 2 men had been on the ground before being ordered back into the building and subsequently shot. Palestinian group Hamas condemned the killing of the men as an execution. It urged the international community to intervene to stop what it called Israel's escalating field executions. Amnesty International has claimed Israel is still committing genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, despite the ceasefire agreed last month. Amnesty said the ceasefire risks creating a dangerous illusion that life in Gaza is returning to normal. But while Israeli forces have reduced the scale of their attacks, the world must not be fooled, as Israel's genocide is not over. Amnesty said Israel continues to severely restrict the entry of supplies and the restoration of services essential for the survival of the civilian population. Despite a reduction in scale of attacks and some limited improvements, there has been no meaningful change in the conditions Israel is inflicting on the Palestinians. The agency added there is also no evidence to indicate that Israel's intent has changed. It said Israel's pattern of conduct in Gaza, including the deliberate, unlawful denial of life-saving aid to Palestinians, continues to threaten their survival. Previously, in September, the Independent International Commission of Inquiry set up by the United Nations concluded that genocide is occurring in Gaza. The probe concluded that Israeli authorities and forces had since 2023 committed 4 of the 5 genocidal acts listed in the 1948 Genocide Convention. The Israeli military carried out a fresh series of strikes against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, exactly a year into a ceasefire with the group. Lebanon's state-run national news agency said Israeli aircraft launched a series of raids on Al-Mahmoudiya and Al-Jarmak, just north of the Litani River. The 27th November 2024 ceasefire sought to end over a year of hostilities between the 2 sides. But Israel has repeatedly bombed Lebanon despite the truce, usually claiming it is targeting Hezbollah members and infrastructure to stop the group from rearming. Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam said his country is in a one-sided war of attrition that is escalating. According to the ceasefire agreement, Hezbollah was required to pull its forces north of the Litani River and have its military infrastructure there dismantled. Now, the Lebanese military said it is carrying out its plan to disarm the group, but Washington and Israel have accused Lebanese authorities of stalling the process. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun rejected the claims, adding the Lebanese army is preventing armed displays, confiscating ammunition, inspecting tunnels, among other things. President Vladimir Putin said outlines of the draft peace plan discussed by the U.S. and Ukraine could become the basis of future agreements to end the conflict in Ukraine. However, he warned that if the proposal fails to pave the way for meaningful negotiations, Russia will continue its military operations. Putin said the U.S. was taking into account Russia's position, but some things still need to be discussed.
Вещи, они носят принципиальный характер. И в целом мы видим, что американская сторона учитывает нашу, в чем-то учитывает нашу позицию, которая обсуждалась до Анкориджа и после Аляски. Где-то нам точно совершенно нужно садиться и серьезно обсуждать какие-то конкретные вещи. Нужно все положить на дипломатический язык.
Putin said he considered the Ukrainian leadership as illegitimate, making it legally impossible for Russia to sign any agreement directly with Kyiv. Therefore, he stressed that any deal must receive international recognition, including acknowledgement of Russia's territorial gains in Ukraine. President Donald Trump said the U.S. will soon expand efforts to curb Venezuelan drug trafficking by intensifying operations on land, following what he described as major progress in stopping narcotics shipments by sea. Trump said U.S. forces had almost stopped maritime trafficking, claiming an 85% reduction, and warned Venezuelan groups against continuing to send poison into the country.
All of you are backbone of America, and you really are the backbone of America's air power. And in recent weeks, you've been working to deter Venezuelan drug traffickers, of which there are many. Of course, there aren't too many coming in by sea anymore, if you probably noticed that, from sending their poisons into the United States, where they kill hundreds of thousands of people a year. But we're going to take care of that situation. We're already doing a lot.
His remarks came hours after Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro declared that his country is prepared to defend itself against any foreign threat. Tensions between Washington and Caracas have escalated in recent months amid increased U.S. operations in the Caribbean, targeting alleged drug trafficking vessels. President Emmanuel Macron has announced the creation of a new voluntary youth military service to begin by mid-2026, which would help France respond to escalating threats on the global stage. Now, the move is part of a broader shift across Europe, where nations who have long enjoyed the tranquility of U.S. security guarantees are fretting about President Donald Trump's shifting priorities.
Ce service national ne peut avoir du sens que s'il a de l'ampleur. Le service national va débuter à l'été 2026 et nous augmenterons progressivement les effectifs. 3 000 jeunes seront choisis pour effectuer le service national à l'été 2026 et les promotions augmenteront progressivement pour atteindre 10 000 jeunes incorporés en 2030. L'ambition que je porte pour la France est d'atteindre 50 000 jeunes en 2035. Ceci sera à adapter en fonction de l'évolution de la menace.
Macron said the voluntary scheme will be open to 18 and 19-year-olds who would be paid and would last 10 months. It would cost 2 billion euros, which he called a significant and necessary effort. After the program, he said participants could integrate into civilian life, become a reservist, or stay in the armed forces. Up next in sports, 10 SEA Games sports relocated to Bangkok. Belgium proved too strong for the national hockey squad as they cruised to a 9-1 victory in their fourth match of the Sultan Azlan Shah Cup at the Sultan Azlan Shah Hockey Stadium. Belgium's prolific striker and this year's world's best player, Tom Boone, opened the scoring with a penalty corner in the 8th minute before Thomas Krolls doubled the lead 3 minutes later. Spurred by the early setback, the Malaysian team launched a counter-attack and narrowed the gap in the 13th minute through a field goal by Faisal Sari. But 2 minutes later, Tabu Stokbroeks ensured Belgium retained its lead heading into the end of the first quarter. The second quarter saw Belgium continue to pressure Malaysia's defence, breaking through again when Roman Duvekot scored the fourth goal in the 24th minute. Alexander Hendricks and Tommy Willems added the Speedy Tigers' misery with a penalty strike and a penalty corner conversion in the 27th and 30th minutes. Tom Boone struck again in the 38th minute when Belgium were awarded another penalty. And Victory Forbert further punished the national defence with Belgium's 8th goal in the 41st minute. Belgium's relentless attacks continued as Roman Duvekot completed Malaysia's dreadful outing with a 9th goal in the 54th minute. Meanwhile, head coach Sarjit Singh described the loss as a major lesson for his players, saying the match provided an accurate gauge of the Speedy Tigers' current level and highlighted areas that needed improvement.
We know this is a very good match we got, and even the score is 9-1. I think Belgium really played well. So it's good, at least our boys know what is our level against them. So we need to work hard, we need to make our basics strong, and we need to move the ball like how Belgium moved the ball. When there's no gap, they transfer the ball back.
Belgian coach Shane McLeod, on the other hand, praised the excellent performance shown by his players.
We've been working with a group that's very diligent in what they try and do, and tonight it all came together at the same time. So we're very, very happy with our team's performance, and it's kind of something that we've been searching for and trying to build towards, and tonight I thought we played really well.
A total of 10 sports originally scheduled in Songkhla have been approved for relocation to Bangkok for the 2025 SEA Games in Thailand, slated to be held from 9th to 20th December. The confirmation of the relocation was confirmed during the meeting of the organizing committee for the 33rd SEA Games and 13th ASEAN Para Games, following flooding in southern Thailand. The meeting was presided over by Thailand Tourism and Sports Minister Atakon Sirilatyakorn and attended by Governor of the Sports Authority of Thailand, Dr. Kongsak Yotmani, representatives from sports associations and related officials. The primary agenda item concerned the relocation of sports and competition venues for the SEA Games due to severe flooding in the southern region of Thailand, which caused damage and impacted readiness, particularly in Songkhla province, one of the co-host cities for the Games. The 10 sports that will be relocated to Bangkok from Songkhla include Muay Thai, men's football, chess, kabaddi, wushu, judo, karate and wrestling. The meeting also confirmed that billiards and snooker, which were supposed to be held in Chonburi, had also been moved to Bangkok. On a related note, the National Sports Council, MSN, and the Olympic Council of Malaysia have implemented an emergency standard operating procedure to assist national contingent members in handling unexpected situations, including disasters at the SEA Games in Thailand. MSN Director General Jeffrey Ngadirin said the decision was made during an emergency meeting between MSN and the Olympic Council of Malaysia to assess the current situation in Thailand.
Di peringkat MSN dan OCM, kami telah mengeluarkan satu garis panduan SOP kecemasan bagi semua pihak melihat dan meneliti sekiranya berlaku apa-apa kejadian semasa SEA Games, mereka akan rujuk kepada SOP tersebut. Dan kita rasakan nombor perhubungan sekretariat dalam, luar, kedutaan dan pihak keselamatan bagi memberikan pengurus pasukan, jurulatih dan juga atlet mendapatkan atau menghubungi pihak-pihak berkaitan secara terus.
Jeffrey said MSN had activated its external secretariat to ensure transportation and support services in Bangkok would not be disrupted by the increased number of sports being shifted to the Thai capital. Arne Slot has vowed to keep fighting, saying his conversations with Liverpool's owners have not changed despite his team's deep slump. Now, the Premier League champions were hammered 4-1 by PSV Eindhoven in the Champions League on Wednesday, their 9th defeat in their past 12 matches in all competitions. Slot, who led Liverpool to the Premier League title last season in his first campaign in charge, said he is confident his job is safe. The Dutchman admitted Liverpool's standards had slipped, but insisted he did not feel let down by his players.
No matter how difficult it is, we have to fight together. But it would also be nice if we would reward ourselves in the moments we play well, because, people are very focused and correctly about the parts we don't play well, but there are definitely large parts of the games where we do play well and where we do create a lot of chances, and we tend to forget to reward ourselves in those moments, and every small mistake or small error immediately leads to us conceding a goal, and that is a very bad cocktail to have.
Now Liverpool face a trip to Juventus West Ham on Sunday, desperate to improve on their position of 12th place in the Premier League title table. Germany honored Bayern Munich and Real Madrid midfielder Toni Kroos with the country's Order of Merit in a ceremony hosted by President Frank-Walter Steinmeier at the Real Madrid's Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. Steinmeier presented Kroos with the Knight's Cross of the Order of Merit for his achievements on and off the pitch. The 35-year-old helped Germany win the 2014 World Cup in Brazil and lifted the Champions League trophy once with Bayern Munich and 5 times with Real Madrid. Beyond his sporting success, Kroos founded the Toni Kroos Foundation, which supports seriously ill children and their families. Kroos retired from international football in 2021, but remained a key figure at Real Madrid until last year, where he had played since 2014. And that wraps up World Today. In our top story, Trump orders review of immigrant visas. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. Until then, I'm Otto Othman. Salam Malaysia Madani, and have a great day ahead.